This is
the lateral. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end of the band. The Bears have won. And the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
17 seconds, high formation now. Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the end. It's caught! It's caught! It's caught! Touchdown official! Calvin Benjamin. Knowles retake the lead with 13 seconds remaining.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
And welcome into another episode of the Rivalry Live. Well, maybe not so live, but you don't need to know about that. That's our business, not yours. Welcome to another episode of the Rivalry Live. I am Mike Settle, and that, as always, is Dustin Franklin. Dustin, Conference Championship Saturday. By the time you guys see this, we will know who has won the Pac-12 and Conference USA. So congratulations to those two teams. They may be.
Congrats to USC.
I was going to say, come on, man. Let's fight on this thing. It's funny. We have our normal intro show there, or, the intro to our show. It's going to be weird not seeing Alabama in this playoff thing. I think that's pretty much a done deal if you ask me. I guess some funky things could happen, but like I said, if you go back and listen to our pod from earlier in the week, which may be a little dated now, but not really because of coaching carousel news, I pretty much said I think the top three are locked in, win or lose today as you hear this. So I think Alabama, if our USC prediction is correct as we sit here, I think Alabama's on the outside looking in, and so is Ohio State, which was what we're going to get into today. Dustin, on our weekly show, we did not have time to discuss. That's how much news is happening right now with all this crazy coaching. If you're looking for coaching news, I want you to go back and I want you to listen to the show we did for our pod feeds this week. We didn't even have time to get in the game review, buddy. We spent an hour and 20 minutes on news, just coaching cycles and portal players and weird arrests that we don't have to get into right here. Crazy stuff happening, crazy time of year for sure. So on this show, just when we have a few games to preview for Conference Championship Saturday, we're going to go back to last week. We're going to break down what we saw on the field for a few of these games, and it may be a little more rapid fire than we normally do. But for those of you who've never really heard us review games, this is a treat for you, which means you should go. This is almost like an advertisement for those who only watch our live show to go back into our pod feeds and listen to us review football, not just preview football. So we sound like, for some reason, Dustin, we sound a lot smarter when we review because, we're not wrong.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Dustin, let's start off with some news. I mean, there's been a little bit even since we recorded the show, which was yesterday at the time of this recording. Some new coaching news, some new bowl qualification news. Hit me with it, Dustin.
Yeah, so first of all, shout out to New Mexico State. 5-6.
Love
now
it.
they got a game today as you're listening to this against Valparaiso, but they don't get to count that towards bowl eligibility because it's another FCS. You have to have, you can only count one or maybe is it two FCS wins towards bowl eligibility.
Yes.
But regardless, they unfortunately had a game scheduled earlier in the year against San Jose State. That game was postponed and then eventually canceled due to the death of Camden McWright. Completely understandable. Thoughts and prayers still go out to him or his family. New Mexico State tried to find a replacement opponent, FBS opponent, to get the bowl eligibility, and they just couldn't do it. No one was available to play or willing to play. So the NCAA granted them a waiver. They're going to get to win, lose, or draw against Valparaiso. They're going to get to go to a bowl game. And shout out to them for that, man. New Mexico State, get this. This is only their second bowl appearance since 1960. They do not go bowling. So this is a big deal for them.
2 bowl games in 61 years is that's something crazy.
Now they did win their last bowl game in 2017. Right. They beat Utah State. So,
I remember, pal. I remember.
Big deal for New Mexico State.
Absolutely, man. Look, I like seeing that, and I think everyone and by the way, the big news that broke today, which we didn't even talk about before the show, is the fact that the college football playoff is officially expanding. Save that thought for just a second. I don't think the expansion of that is going to ruin some of these lower tier bowl games, at least in my opinion, because I think that's what some of these smaller schools will be trying to get to. That's their goal. And I think when you have these bowl games for places like a New Mexico State, it makes the season worth it, man. You're out here grinding in the same heat and the same conditions that a lot of other places are, and you need to get rewarded for that if you win enough games. So I think that's great. Obviously 5 and 6 doesn't look good, but they've had some weird scheduling stuff that's out of their control. It wasn't their fault per se. So, and they had a couple of losses on that schedule that could have easily been wins as well. So they were right there in the thick of it. All right. Let's touch on what I just said, though, before we get to the other news. College football playoff is officially expanding its field to 12. This comes down. Now, look, we've known for a while that this was happening. I mean, it was moving forward, but we had to wait on the Rose Bowl, as usual. Everything revolves around the freaking Rose Bowl. But I'm glad it's included. I think God, what a great venue for college football to have a game, and I'm glad they're involved because guess what? They were moving on without him. I mean, this thing wasn't going to, they were going to count the Rose Bowl out, but that won't be the case going forward. So 12 teams. You get some first-round buys. You get some at-home playoff games in the first round where the higher seed gets the home field advantage. That's cool.
Or it's home field or a designated location chosen by the higher seed. I thought that was interesting.
I did too. I don't know if that's for places like, I don't know what you like. I don't really know what that is. If like
no clue, but I like it.
if the University of Miami makes it, are they going to host it at the Marlins Stadium instead so it looks more packed? I don't freaking know. Yeah, that was a shot. Pew pew. Anyway, that'll never happen. Miami hosting a playoff game. Anyway. Well,
you're not wrong. We don't have to say that, but you're not wrong.
Let's be nice. I will be nice. You never know. How about that? That's much nicer. So this is an interesting thing. Look, there's people that are going to argue against this all day. They think it devalues the regular season. And there's a little bit of truth. I don't think that that's the full truth. Look, man, these games were Dustin, these games we saw this year where Tennessee beats Alabama, those games still mean something, man. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think this devalues the regular season. I think it can increase the value of it. And that's just my perspective. Now, we've argued against it in the past where it's like, well, there's only how many teams could truly win a national championship. And I get that argument because I've made that argument before. But I think this season proves, man, I think the field is getting a little bigger. NIL is helping. The portal is helping. Recruiting being spread around to more universities is helping. So I think this is a good time that it kicks off the 24-25 season. I'm just going to throw to you, man. What are your thoughts? Yay, nay? Do you like the number? I know you talked about 8 kind of being your sweet spot. I think 12 is as big as I ever want to see this thing.
Yeah.
12 is my limit. Once we get into 16, I think we're talking about some teams that just really are up to snuff. Like, I'm sorry, but as much as I love Florida State, buddy, they're sitting at number 13. Weird things happening this weekend. In 2 years, they're in the playoff because they're at home not playing a game. So, like, some weird things. I don't think this Florida State team, while playing really well, not quite going to win a Yeah, they may win one game, but they're not going any further than that. So, just your thoughts on the expansion of the playoff. Official now. We are getting this.
8's a good number. 6 is an even better number to me, but it is what it is. I'm not going to complain about it. I would rather have 6 teams, top 2 seeds getting a bye. But to everybody say, oh, the 1 in the 4 game is always a blowout anyway. Okay. But that one time that we get the upset, I don't want to hear one single person rejoice and be like, what a game.
Hey, guess what? We're not getting a 1-4 game anymore. We are getting a 3-12. Like, those first 2 teams get a bye. Like, you're probably going to play a little bit of a better, like that 1 and 2 seed, Dustin, they're going to play a little bit of a better team than they normally would.
Yeah, but I'm saying more to the people that already complain because the playoffs are mostly blowouts but regardless, if we didn't have March Madness, then a 16 seed would never have the chance of beating a 1 seed. Right. And that happened, Kentucky.
That was Virginia, pal.
Oh, Virginia, yeah. Kentucky lost last year as a 2 seed. Yeah, you're right.
15-2. Yeah.
Right. But regardless, upsets that are part of what makes the game special. But more than anything, I'm just happy about this because I think this is one step closer to the conference championships going bye-bye. And that's something I've been an advocate for a long time.
I agree with you. I want them to go away. But I read something this morning that makes me think the committee wants conference championship games to stay around and mean more. That is ridiculous. What are we doing here? They are so meaningless. They're so just you win your regular season and you move on. I think they're actually going to end up being way more important than me and you would like. Look, expansion of the sport is inevitable. Change is always inevitable. I think if you really love the sport, you just roll with the punches, man. The portal made it different. Everyone hated the portal. Now everyone uses the portal. Everyone hated NIL. Now everyone uses NIL. I mean, and you may still hate those things, but if you're still watching, that means you still love the sport and you just kind of roll with the changes. So, I mean, I think it's going to be fun, man. You'll get this year, think about the 3-12 matchup. I mean, if it stopped right now, TCU and Tulane, heck yeah, I'd watch that. Heck yeah. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That game would be better than people think. Now, I think TCU would win, but I mean, it's not
probably more entertaining than the TCU game we're going to get today anyway. So,
yeah. I kind of wonder where you're. Well, no, you sent me what you could have been your locks. So maybe we have the same idea where we're going. I think you're right. I think people are. I think that team may be tired of hearing about how mid they are. I think they played a little angry last week. I think it continues today. Okay, Dustin, last little bit of news here. FAU has found a new coach, baby. Go Owls. We both love this hire. Let's go.
Yeah. Phenomenal hire. Tom Herman, baby. Okay, cool. Hoot 'em. That's the news. That's the new text message we send.
That's right, baby.
Tom Herman, say what you will about his tenure at Texas. He was 32-18. That's not going to get the job done there. That's what Sark's on pace to do. So he'll probably be on the way out as well.
Might not be the coach. Not be
the man can coach. He was 22-4 in his 2 seasons at Houston. Can recruit.
Really good offensive coordinator for that championship team in Ohio State. Really good.
Yep. That. But can recruit. He could recruit in a pre-NIL era deal. With he got a 5-star Ed Oliver at Houston when Houston was not known for signing anything over than like a 3-star. So it's a very exciting hire. He's undefeated in bowl games in his career. You want to talk about following up a disappointing tenure with a huge upside. That's what they did.
Yeah. One more quick thing. I think a lot of people are getting very experienced at navigating the American Athletic Conference, being at Houston, winning the damn thing, beating Florida State in a bowl game. As FAU makes that transition to a step up in competition. I mean, just being honest, the ECUs and the Memphises and those teams of the world are going to be a little bit of a step up from some of the Conference USA teams they were playing, even though they're bringing 5 other teams with them. I still think higher level of competition, higher budget, everything's a little bit more at stake. So I think you got to have a guy that's navigated those waters. Tom Herman's one of those guys, plus all the nice stuff that you said about him. I like the hire. The Tom Herman era at Texas is still a mystery to me. God, I expected that to work like gangbusters. I was wrong. But like I said, may not be the coach. Look at everybody since Mac Brown. That may be a Texas problem, not a coaching problem. Although you could argue and say if you can't make Texas work, then you probably – you can make that argument. But I'm with you. I think at some point there's one constant, and it's University of Texas.
This is hard to walk in the footsteps of a GOAT.
He didn't.
It's hard to follow.
He didn't follow. He didn't follow Mike Norvell.
No, I'm talking about everybody who's followed Mac Brown. Everybody's following here.
Get out of here.
Hey, Norvell's not playing for a conference championship today.
Well, I'll tell you what. If we played in the Coastal, we sure would. Anyway,
ifs and buts with candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. Let's go.
Yeah, man, Dabo Swinney's gonna make him look foolish today. Okay, I'm just kidding. I like North Carolina, but I don't really think Mac. I don't know. Fraudulent GOAT to me. Anyway, that's a different story for a different day. What?
Put some
respect on. Nice man. Looks like he's been visiting the bar, though. That's all I'm saying.
Wouldn't you if you had to coach that defense every week?
I would say, wouldn't you if you hired Gene Chizik on purpose? Yikes. All right, Dustin, are you ready? Let's review last weekend. We're going to try to run through it as quick as we can so we don't get overly wordy and we get you out of here in an hour or under because there's, these games have happened a week ago at this point, but I do think they're worth diving into, actually more than a week ago with a few of these. Let's go all the way back, Dustin, to Thursday night, Thanksgiving. You're full. You got, your turkey. It's just set in. You're half asleep on the couch, but the state of Mississippi says nay, nay. Gives you a really, really fun Egg Bowl game. Mississippi State 24, Ole Miss 22. So I want to remind Dustin live on this show that Lane Kiffin will finish the season unranked with 8 wins and a loss to his in-state rival. You know who didn't do that, Mike Norvell? Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, it was just it was a circus all week in Mississippi, though. You had rumors swirling left and right.
Butts and hands and nuts and all that other stuff.
You had everybody attacking his character. It's just wild. But no,
get over it, buddy.
That game was thrilling, to say the least. It was crazy. Of course, like I said, you had the rumors up until game time. Is Lane Kiffin staying? Is Lane Kiffin 1 foot out the door to Auburn or not? Which now we know is not the case. Hugh Freeze. But he comes out, and the thing that's bit Ole Miss in the butt most of the season bid them in here. They couldn't finish drives. You had 2 red zone trips in the first quarter, had to settle for field goals. You got to finish those drives. You got to put 7 on the board. And then, there was some questionable officiating. There was a really interesting usage of timeouts by Lane Kiffin at the end. That's what did it for me. They go down and score, and then you've got 3 timeouts, a minute and a half on the clock, and you're down 2. Call a timeout to make sure you get the perfect 2-point conversion play. You line up again, you call another timeout. What? And then you go out there and you run your play, which I don't have a problem with the play. The play was a fake pitch shovel pass to a receiver coming underneath. It would have worked. It's just the defensive lineman for Mississippi State made a brilliant play. He got a finger on the ball.
He made a really good play.
So the play call and the design itself wasn't bad. It just the guy made a play on the ball. What I have a problem with, though, is Lane Kiffin is using those 2 timeouts, because if you have those 2 timeouts, you still got a minute and a half on the clock and 3 timeouts. You could potentially get the ball back. You could get the ball back with the stop. So
some disorganization here.
That was bad clock management. I will admit that. I'll admit that. But let's not act like Norvell hasn't missed.
Oh, buddy, he has plenty of it.
So,
holy God, he's got plenty of it.
It happens. It happens. But no, that honestly, the Egg Bowl was one of the games of the year for me. That was an incredible game.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people expect, just because of the 2 coaches, that it would be a very high-scoring affair. But I think people don't understand the talent on the Mississippi State defense. And I like their coordinator a lot. Look,
plus it was rainy.
Yeah, I was gonna say weird sloppy, weird sloppy weather. Fun game for the Mississippi State fan base. Look, here's what I'll say. I haven't liked that Ole Miss offense really all year. Now I like them on the ground, but their ability to move the ball down the field through the air has been iffy. And I really haven't liked that defense. Now they played pretty well against Mississippi State in the air raid, or his new and improved air raid, which is the same as his old air raid, but whatever. Mike Leach had a few instances in this game, and this is just my takeaway. Leach had a few instances in this game where the veteran got – I mean, I know Lane's been coaching a long time, but I think Mike Leach got him a few times. He went for it a couple times. Well, I don't think Ole Miss was expecting it. There's, some run-pass mix-up that I think kind of caught the defense coordinator off guard. So – I really like the game plan going into the game, and I'm with you, though. There was a call. It ended up being a fumble on the field, but they blew the play dead inadvertently, and then still gave Mississippi State the football.
Yeah.
That screwed over Ole Miss tremendously. However, Mississippi State went right to the goal line and fumbled the ball back to Ole Miss, so it ended up not really mattering, but it took a lot of time.
The only thing it did was it took time off the clock. It took time off the clock, and where Lane misused those timeouts there at the end, they could have used that extra time. So, yeah, absolutely, just a horrific showing by the officials there.
Absolutely. Let's go to the state that I am from and talk about Friday night. Best game of the weekend right here, buddy. Florida State 45, Florida 38. Hey. All right. Go Noles, baby. I got to remove my bias there. Or actually I'm putting my bias cap on. That's what I'm talking about. Mike Norvell finished with a 9-3 record. Second in the ACC Atlantic, only behind Clemson by a game and a half because of the tiebreaker. But don't look at that. Just look at that. Just look at it. Hey, the only game they really should have won that they lost was NC State. But anyway, great season, great bounce back season after winning, going winning 3 games one year, 5 games the next. To come back and have a 4-game swing is very, very impressive. Finished this season on a 5-game win streak. Florida, on the other hand, look, I know this is a rivalry game, and I could use this platform to talk a lot of smack, but I will not. What I will say is I actually really like the direction of both of these programs. Like I think both are going this way, and that's a good thing. I've always had the theory that the big 3 in the Florida will never be good at the same time again. I think I could be proven wrong here shortly, because if Miami actually coaches up their recruits, then they're going to be really good.
Yeah.
But if they coach the way I think they could be coached, I have questions about the University of Miami. But coming out of this game, my takeaway is I think Billy Napier's got that thing going the right way. Seems to be doing some of the stuff Mike Norvell did as far as clearing out the locker room a little bit, telling some guys to have a good day. The luxury that Billy Napier has is the APR is high enough where he could just tell people to have a good day, unlike Mike and Willie that had to kind of, eat it because if they cut enough people, they were going to be academically ineligible as a program. That's not good. So, look, all that words out what I just said. Great win. Great offensive performance by the Noles. Jordan Travis was a Houdini back there.
Yeah.
He looked like Michael Vick in 1998. I mean, he was outstanding on the night. Trey Benson ran like a grown man. I think he'll be back for the Noles as well. Great offensive performance. Bad on the defense. I thought the defense played bad overall. They had some situational stuff I thought was good. But I think, Anthony, you can just kind of tip your cap and say you played a good quarterback on a night where he was at his best. Because we've seen this from Anthony Richardson before. But he hadn't showed it the last few weeks. You go out there, and he doesn't look super great against Vandy, but he carved the Florida State defense up. So all I have to say is I think both programs are going the right direction. This was a close game in this rivalry for the first time in a very long time. I was happy to see that, despite what people may think. So good win for Mike Norvell, but it's only going to get tougher to go against Billy Napier in his program from here.
Yeah, I mean, Richardson did carve up the defense, but on the day, he was still just 9 of 27. There was way too much Ricky Pearsall.
he looked better than that because of the big passes in the first half.
Yeah. And but yeah, you mentioned Jordan Travis. I mean, he looked like 2016 Lamar Jackson. That's what he looked like running the ball. You could not get him down. It's like he was covered in grease. He was slipping through tackles left and right. 15 carries, 83 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That honestly should have been 4 touchdowns, because there's 2 times that they called him short at the one because he looked like he went into a slide. But honestly, I don't think he was sliding to get down. I think he was just doing whatever he could to fall into the end zone. So that rule is bad, in my opinion. Those were touchdowns. But regardless, Florida State capped those drives off with a touchdown anyway. But, yeah, this game had everything you could ask for. Drama, back and forth. It's 24-21, Florida at the halftime. Florida State comes out with 17 unanswered in the third, and then, finishes the game with a 7-point victory. Very impressive win by Norvell. Very impressive season by Norvell. Don't get too bent out of shape, Florida fans, because I agree with you. I think Napier's got the program headed in the right direction. Now they're going to need to take a quarterback in the portal, because Richardson, if all indication is correct, probably going to enter the draft and test the waters there. And his backup has found his way into a different situation of his own on his own doing, which we addressed earlier in the week. So unfortunate news there, but if they can bring in a quarterback, I think this Florida team is going to be just fine next season.
Yeah, they're going to have to find themselves a quarterback, obviously, like you said, but a monster running back. So I expect them to kind of ground and pound. If they pair that with a passing game that they need receivers, they need a quarterback, and they need an overhaul on defense. That Florida defense is not good. The defensive line gets gashed. Their secondary doesn't. Man, that didn't look like a Florida secondary to me. That was insane to see some of the stuff they were giving up. But fun game, really close. Like I said, I think both teams are going the right direction, and that's a good thing for this rivalry going forward. All right, Dustin. Let's go to Saturday. And some of these we're going to go through pretty quick, if you don't mind. Let's go through some rapid fire, and then I can kind of break down a few I'd rather talk about a little bit longer. Kentucky, 26. Louisville, 13. Louisville making the ACC look bad, you pieces of crap. Scott Satterfield, I gave him all the love in the world last week. He may find himself on a different list here in a little bit. Man, not a good performance by the Cardinals. Expected a lot more out of them.
Yeah, that was an ugly game all around. The team really rallied around Satterfield earlier in the season when they needed to, and it looked like he may be fired, and then just come out and lay a dud against a Kentucky team that was flailing miserably. Just an ugly game.
Yeah, it really and that's the thing. The weather was kind of bad. It really wasn't a very fun game to watch. I kept peeking in on it, but it didn't hold my interest like some of these other games. I'm going back to Friday real quick. NC State 30. North Carolina 27, 2 overtimes. This game was wild, especially at the end. A lot of lead changes, a lot of defensive gaffes. Man, I thought Drake May really won it for his team. There was a touchdown that wasn't a touchdown on the next play. Throws another touchdown, and this game goes to overtime, and they just needed one more play, man. It was a really strange game. A good win for Dave Doran after what looked like an inevitable loss, to be honest, a couple weeks ago. To find a way to get that win was pretty big for the Wolfpack and Dave Doran going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And, Drake May didn't play, to be honest with you, the past 2 weeks he hasn't played like himself.
Nope.
But he made the throws when it mattered at the end of the game here and put them in a position to go to overtime and to stay in the game. But college kickers, man, they'll do it every time.
I was going to say, tough bounce of the ball there. Let's stay in the ACC for a little bit of an ass whooping. Pitt 42, Miami 16. I know they gave up on the season, but not like this, Miami.
Oh.
Not like this. To that Pitt offense, yuck.
Yeah, I can't, I don't have much to say other than yikes. That was an ugly game. I watched like 2 minutes of the game, and I was like, yeah, I've seen all I need to see.
Yeah, I had no interest in that game. There was like 8 people there at the Miami Stadium. Not good.
That was another thing, man. Oof.
Hey, by the way, really weird that the Dolphins can sell it out, but the University of Miami can't. Anyway.
Side note, I did read that after this game, I read that with the season being concluded, Miami did not run one bus from campus to the stadium all season, and that's because no one asked them to. So they typically run shuttles for students to get over to the game. They didn't run one all season because no one asked them to. That's embarrassing. That's not a good look.
Gonna have to do a little bit of a better job there. I'm still a big question mark because I was not. Look, when they hired Mario Cristobal, I said I'm a fan of the hire because he'll recruit. He's proving that, especially in the NIL era with the billionaire backing him up. But on-field coaching was a question mark to me, and so far that is rearing its ugly head. And I know that this roster was quote unquote bad, but this roster wasn't that bad last year. And they had Tyler Van Dyke returning, and they had question marks at receiver, but the defense should not have been this bad. Offensive line should not have been this bad. I don't really want to hear it. You returned someone who had Heisman potential at quarterback, and he didn't do anything all year. So interesting times there in Miami. I think Mario could get it fixed. I don't know about on-field coaching, though, Dustin. I'm just not a fan of what he brings from a product standpoint.
Yeah, I know. He needs to move to a CEO role. He needs to be uninvolved with the actual gameplay.
Kind of like Jimbo Fisher, which we'll touch on right now, Dustin. Texas A&M, 38, finally scoring more than 30 points. The Aggies. Look at that. Yeah. Against a Power 5 team.
Against a top 5 team.
Look at this. Well, fraudulent top 5 team.
Okay,
now.
that's fair. I agree, but they were.
They were. LSU 23. Buddy, this game comes down to 2 things. The secondary of LSU said, I don't want to play today. I'm good. And then, I'm sorry to say,
he played fine.
No, he did not. I know what the stats say, but he did not win his team a game, man. Come on.
No, that's true. That's true, but he didn't lose the game. The defense lost the game.
Oh, the defense was awful.
So
that's been a fraudulent defense all year. I mean, we saw them against Tennessee and Florida State, did we not? I mean, come on.
Yeah, but Jaden didn't play a terrible game. He just didn't play a good game.
All right.
Those
whatever.
two things can go. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't have many incompletions. He just didn't score any. And he ran for 85 yards, something like that.
And that team, okay, I'll just say, and that team's about to play for the SEC championship game. Weird times in that league.
Yeah.
But I will say, we talk about
more.
We talk about, yeah, I guess it does. We'll talk about winners on this show. Jimbo getting an SEC win. Only his second one of the season. Got the same number as Mike Norvell. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's ugly.
Hey, don't worry about it, Dustin. Everything's fixed. He's got it. He doesn't need to make any changes, although he did fire scapegoat Daryl Dickey, the offensive coordinator. That is, you got to fire your OC who never called a play. It's better than him firing Randy Sanders at Florida State. Randy Sanders never called no plays. Get out of here, pal. Ugh.
Randy Sanders is the man, though. ETSU head coach Randy Sanders, the macho man Randy Sanders.
Yeah, except for ETSU was a pile of doo-doo this year. Anyway, hey, buddy, they were awful. It happens. All right, let's move on. Let's stay in the state of Texas, if you don't mind. Texas 38, Baylor 27. This was a good win for the Longhorns, man. You know, coming off that, coming off of the two games each team was coming off of, I don't know what I expected to see out of this. This was a good way to finish the year. You finish the year at 8-4. You're going to finish ranked in the top 25. You're recruiting gangbusters. I think we got our expectations too high after the Alabama close loss. Mind you, that was not a win. It was a loss. That Alabama team's looking a little funny in the light. So I think we got our expectations way up here, and now we need to bring them back down. This was a good year for Sark, all in all. But it's year two, some head-scratching losses, but you're building something. This is something you can build on, especially with Manning coming in at quarterback, because I'm starting to question our Ewers, man. I'm starting to question him a little bit.
You can't. I don't question him. I mean, he was 12 of 16 for 194 in this game. That's about as good as you can get. What won them the game is they did what they needed to be doing the whole season, and that's to hand the ball to Bijan Robinson, the best running back in the nation. 29 carries, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. Unbelievable game there. Now, I still have my concerns about Sark being fraudulent, but this was a fantastic showing. And before we get too far removed from what we were just talking about, Randy Sanders wasn't the coach of ETSU this year.
Oh, sorry.
He retired after last year when they went 11-2. So
you're right. He did have them on the mountaintop, but he must have left it in shambles or something. I mean, they were.
No, their head coach now is George Quarles, who was the head coach of Tennessee powerhouse Maryville High School, which is where I actually live, and he's their head coach now. This is his first collegiate head coaching job.
Oh, that's not good. That's a good. Yeah. That's not a good hire, Ed Sue. I don't know what you're doing there.
Anyway. He was Furman's offensive coordinator since 2017, but getting a taste at head coaching in college level and growing pains. 3-8.
Absolutely not a good year for Ed Sue. Let's stay in the Big 12. Kansas State 47, Kansas 27. Kansas tried to battle back for a little bit. Wildcats put the clamps on. Good win for the Wildcats and secured a spot in today's Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, I really needed Kansas to get this win so I could push my Longhorn agenda, but it didn't happen. Good win.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it'll make for the most fun Big 12 championship game today. That's my opinion on that.
I disagree because I think Texas would beat them in the rematch.
Yeah, but that's not what I want. I don't want that.
You said fun. Okay, fun for you.
I was about fun. No, fun game, like interesting game. Like I don't think that game would have been. The game wasn't that interesting the first time around. It was a defensive slugfest. It was sloppy and ugly. That game wasn't fun. That game was not fun at all. That was one of TCU's least fun games of the year, right there, pal. But I don't think Texas would have won, but I think it would have been really close. That's what I'll say. All right. We'll get to the Michigan-Ohio State in just a second. Let's go to the American Athletic Conference real quick because this game means a lot, especially for what's about to take place today. Tulane 27, Cincinnati 24. After this game, Cincinnati loses their head coach. Tough times. Had a chance to win this game at home and host the game you're going to see today if they won the game. Lost to what I think is a better Tulane team. Willie Fritz signs an extension, stays at Tulane instead of going to Georgia Tech. So a lot of moving pieces here in the American Athletic Conference. We'll get to that game in a minute, but they will host UCF today for the American Athletic Conference Championship. This is UCF's last season in the American Athletic Conference. So can Tulane send Cincinnati and UCF out with a loss on the way to the Big 12? Could be interesting. I love this Tulane team, man. I love the uniforms. I love the coach. I love the offense. Give it to me. I need them in a New Year's Six game. I need UCF to lay an egg here.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we'll get to that game later. But this game was incredible. Now, in
It
retrospect,
was,
I kind of question, okay, how focused was Fickle? Had he already had he pulled a Mark Richt to Georgia? Is his mind in other places and everything? So Tajay Spears, though, the Bearcats had no answer for him. Ran for 181 yards, couple scores. If this Tulane team is the team that shows up against UCF, that game could get interesting.
Well, UCF has a win over them, which was probably Tulane's worst performance of the year. Just statistically speaking, they didn't look good. They tried to battle back, and UCF just was able to run the ball down their throat later in the game. I think the result could be different today. We'll see. I think that's the game that's the most fun since UCF buddy, USF choked that game away in the last war on I-4. USF had that game won. I mean, you can say whatever you want. I think the catch that was there down at the goal line was only called a catch because it looked cool. I don't care what anyone says. To me, that's not a catch. Every fiber of my being says that's not a catch, but it was ruled on the field as one, and it looked really cool. So you give the catch to the UCF player there. Let's go here. Here we go. Let's go to the Pac-12. Hey, buddy. Well, 9-3 for my Oregon State Beavers. My Jonathan Smith-led Oregon State Beavers, baby. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Look at this. Oregon State 38, Oregon 34. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear Oregon was leading by 20 points, which they were. Nada. The Beavers took this game from the jaws of defeat, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
This was a fun game.
Oh, it was awesome. The uniforms look cool. I love that just call it the Civil War. Enough with that crap. Just call it the Civil War. Come on.
Agreed. 100%. Most of the time when a Bo Nix led team loses, it's his fault. It wasn't his fault.
Not even close.
This game was just this.
Close.
If you want to show someone from a different country, hey, why do you like American football? This is one of the examples you could use.
It really was.
Because it was exciting up to the very end. And you mentioned it. The uniforms look great too. I love the color on color.
I wish Florida and Florida State would do that. I know they never will because that's Florida and Georgia's thing that they do now all of a sudden. So I guess they're probably not going to do that twice. But I think the blue and the garnet would look cool together. That's just me. No, man, this game was so fun. Great ground game by the Beavers. Look, here's the thing. The defense of Oregon State in the second half. The defense that showed up against USC, remember that defense? They showed up against this Oregon offense in the second half. So I really did have a great time watching this game. This game was on a little earlier than it normally is. Normally it's in that 10:30 slot that the Apple Cup was in. So I was excited to be able to sit back and watch this game, man, because it came after the Ohio State-Michigan game, which we're saving for last, in case anyone's wondering. Let's stay in the Pac-12, buddy. Talk about your team, your agenda. USC 38, Notre Dame 27. That score, this game was not as close as that score. USC dominated this game. Once they got into the 20s, this game was over. This was probably, to me, USC's best win of the season, just from a pure domination standpoint. They dominated up front. Hey, buddy, this is the first time all year, really. The USC defensive line played really well. The USC offensive line played really well. They're clicking on all cylinders at the right time. Caleb Williams playing like a grown-ass man. This is unprecedented, Dustin. This is breaking new ground. We haven't seen a team come together from the portal like this with so many new players and actually succeed in year one to this degree.
Yeah.
So this is Lincoln Riley is breaking new ground. He's entering uncharted territory. It's a fascinating case study to see that you can win in multiple different ways at the collegiate level. And I don't think that was thought of before. I think everyone had to recruit. You get a piece or two in the portal, and that's what you do. Lincoln Riley said, well, I'm going to go get the best players we can afford, and that's what we're going to do. And they're one step closer to the playoff. And maybe at the time you hear this, they've already entered the playoff. They've won the Pac-12 outright, or maybe the Utes ruined their dreams. I don't know. You let us know.
Yeah. V is for victory, man. Fight on. But I will say this. We can't praise the USC defense too much. I'm cautious to do that based off this game because I can't forget how bad Notre Dame's offense has looked for a lot of the season.
It has.
And they gave up 318 yards through the air to Drew Pine. But on the ground, I mean, they were fantastic on the ground.
Yes.
And, yeah, you mentioned Caleb Williams. I think that this all but shored up the Heisman for him because in a season where Blake Corum is now out for the season, C.J. Stroud has not lived up to his hype as of late, especially. Hendon Hooker's out for the season. It's pretty wide open. I think it's him, Max Duggan. That's your top two probably. But Caleb Williams doing this on this stage, this is his award in my opinion. 4 total touchdowns, took care of the ball, only missed 4 passes through the air. It's his.
Unless Utah beat him up, and we don't know about it yet. That's the only thing I can think of.
It didn't happen. I can see.
It sure didn't happen in the first game. So I think the Utah defense is a little suspect, to be polite. All right, let's go to the last game that we have to review, Dustin. Michigan, 45. Ohio State, 23. Dustin, this game came down to 7 plays. 7 plays. 7 explosive plays. A couple passes, some big runs. No Blake Corum, no problem. And here's – Dustin, this game is simple. Ohio State said, we're going to stop the run. And they did. But then Michigan's offense coordinator said, I can't believe what we're seeing. There are wide open lanes to throw this ball on, and they did just that. They said, fine, you're going to – and here's what happened. Then they realized, oh, crap, we have to defend the big play. Now we're going to run on you. So this was, to me, Dustin, of Michigan being – Ohio State's a better collection of talent, but Michigan is a better football team. That's what this came down to today, in my opinion. Or last week, in my opinion. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they absolutely are. Donovan Edwards, have a day, man.
Yeah, man.
You said it. No Blake Corum, no problem. Rushing for 216. Now, had Corum been healthy and that was his stat line, I think it's his Heisman Trophy.
It'd be an interesting discussion.
It would definitely be a lot more in question, if nothing else. But this game was just ugly. I thought going into the weekend, I thought that Michigan had to win to get in the playoffs. Ohio State did not.
Me too.
But you can't lose like this.
No.
You can't lose like this at home. And so I think they were a little too relaxed. They were a little too to
a team without its best player. Let's keep that in mind. And I know Ohio State's had injuries, but everyone's had injuries at this point of year. Like at this point, Ohio State is so deep. Like you should be able to overcome some of these things. Jim Knowles got schooled, man. Sorry, but he did.
Yeah. And then I saw this quote from Stephen A. Smith that made me laugh, so I'm going to share it. He said, Ohio State did not lose. They got their ass kicked. He said, we got to take the off of the Ohio State. Just call them Ohio State. That's how bad they got beat. And he's not wrong.
I mean, here's the thing. With a loss here, if it was close, Dustin, I would maybe have a little bit more of an argument for Ohio State. Although I don't think their resume is like fantastic or anything, but whatever. Clearly, they're a very talented football team. But you can't lose by this much. You lost. Look, here's the tipping scale, Dustin. You've already lost to a playoff team by 20 plus points. To me, that lets me know you're not a playoff team. That's as simple as it gets to me. And now in a 12-team playoff, guess what? Ohio State gets another crack at it, and I'm okay with that. But since we're only taking 4, Ohio State to me has no business involved unless USC, which again we don't know. You guys do. If USC has already lost, I think Ohio State gets in. My only problem with that, Dustin, is punish USC for playing an extra game. That's interesting to me. That's an interesting thought. Well, we're about to get rid of that. That's going out. I know, and you know how I feel too. All right, buddy. That's our game review. We've already gone 43 minutes, so we're going to try to hurry through some of this other stuff. If you've never listened to our weekly pod, we got some segments that we're about to throw at you. Dustin, are you ready to talk about who is on our power poll?
Let's do it.
Power. All right, Dustin, who is on your Rivalry Weekend power poll?
All right, coming in number 5 is Jordan Travis. I mean, we've already spoken about how electric he was. He could not be tackled. He could not be denied. He willed a team to victory. He was the difference in that game. Shout out to Jordan Travis, Florida State. Number 4 for me is Caleb Williams. Like I said, counted for 4 touchdowns and all but shored up the Heisman Trophy, in my opinion. willing USC to an impressive victory over a good, not great, but a good Notre Dame team. Number 3 for me was TCU, man. We've been
Domination.
saying it for weeks. You're playing with the horseshoe up your ass, this, that, and the other. You come out and hang 62 points on the best defense in the Big 12. All right, okay, maybe you're better than we gave you credit for. And Max Duggan, he certainly has a lot to do with that.
Absolutely.
Coming in number 2, Spencer Rattler. Where did this come from? Now, I want to be clear. I think what we've seen
We didn't even talk about that game on accident, by the way. That's my mistake. By the way, South Carolina beats Clemson for the first time in 6 years, 31-30. The game, to me, was not even that close.
No.
South Carolina played with its food a little bit.
But, this, to me, Spencer Rattler, he did what he did against Tennessee. Carved them boys up. And that's not the Spencer Rattler we've seen thus far in his career. Then he comes out and he follows it up with 360 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, he did throw 2 interceptions, but still threw for 2 touchdowns and rushed for 1 against Clemson. I want to be clear. I think that this is his Linsanity moment. I don't think this is sustainable, but still impressive nonetheless. Fair. Great couple of weeks for Spencer Rattler. And then number 1 for me is Michigan. Just what a statement. The entire Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, incredible showing. To do all that, to win that game in that fashion without your best player, hats off.
Buddy, I went a little simplified this week. I went with an all head coaches power poll. And the reason I did that is because I'm so hard on coaches. So I need to give these people their props. Dustin, are you ready for number 5?
Yeah.
Tulane's head coach, Willie Fritz, gets his team to the conference championship game for the first time in God knows how long. The Conference USA didn't have a conference championship game in 98. So this is the first time since 98 they've been playing for the chance at winning a conference, and only the second time since like 1930-something when they won the SEC that they have a shot to win a conference championship. So great job by Willie Fritz. Love what he's done with that program. And I just like seeing Tulane be good, man. They're in the heart of New Orleans. They have cool colors. They have a cool mascot. They're just a really cool team that I've been pulling for a long time. I used to play as them in the video game all the time because they played in the Superdome and I could put a lot of people in that place. And so when I took them all the way to the top, people showed up because there was a lot of people there. Felt like and then I put them in the SEC. And then we dominated that conference too. All right. So I'll move on. Number 4, Lincoln Riley, head coach at USC, a guy that I've been pretty critical of in the past, but I loved that hire as soon as USC made it. I said, oh my God, that makes so much sense. He's proved to be all that and more. To have his team with a chance to make the college football playoff in year 1 with all these portal players is something that I'm just so impressed with. To get that team to buy in, to fight for each other, to play like they've been a team that's been playing together for a long time. Very impressive. So Lincoln Riley sits at number 4. Number 3, Mike Norvell, head coach of the Florida State Seminoles. Got to give him his flowers here, man. 9-3. Some of the losses are frustrating as a fan, but when I remove my fan cap, I look at the stats. I look at the offense, the way they played. I look at the defense outside of the Florida game, the way they played most of the year. And I just look at 9 wins. And to come off of a 5-win year, bounce back. Your in-state rivals have 2 new coaches, so maybe that helps a little bit, but I don't think it helps that much. Just this team has improved so much. This team was so fun to watch. They play for each other. They play hard. They play physical. They're not perfect. They're not great, but I got to give Mike Norvell and his staff a lot of credit for the season that Florida State just had. My number 2, coach, power poll, Shane Beamer, head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, baby. What a year. You go down to Gainesville, they beat you around, they whip you up a little bit, and then you follow that up with 2 top 10 wins. Buddy, or top 15, whatever. You know what I mean. Impressive nonetheless at South Carolina. 8-4, coming off a 6-win year that nobody saw coming. You add some pieces in the portal. You're doing well in recruiting. I think Shane Beamer's the right guy for that job at the right time. Great hire. He has that team playing really hard.
He effectively ended 2 teams' playoff hopes in back-to-back weeks.
Back-to-back weeks. And one was against a rival who they haven't beaten in forever. On the road, mind you. On the road at Clemson. Let's go to number 1. I got to give the Khakis his due, baby. Jim Harbaugh, number one on the coaches poll. This is my kind of guy, man. A little milk with steak, nothing wrong with that. You know. I just like, hey, it all. You know what? That's a way to save a cow, man. It all comes from the same. I'm just kidding. Those are two totally different cows. But listen, this is the second year in a row that they've just beaten up Ohio State, making Ryan Day look a little funny in the light. We'll have a Ryan Day discussion in the offseason. I think it could get interesting there if he does the same thing again next year. A little interesting. But all kudos to Jim Harbaugh. He had his team ready to play. They were the better team on Saturday. They were more physical at the line of scrimmage. They were just so much more fun to watch. And I know this Michigan team was kind of boring and frustrating all year. I think they were saving it for this Ohio State game. And that kind of shows you the level of buy-in the team has because they were able to kind of coast for a lot of the year, Dustin. I want to give a shout-out, a honorary mention, because I went all head coaches. I want to give an honorary mention to the Penn State football program, man. A very quiet 2-win team with what looks like a top 5 recruiting class coming in. You're following that, or you have a top 5 recruiting class this year. It looks like you came in last year with a top 8 recruiting class. Think James Franklin may finally get that program over the hump. I know you're not a fan, but dude, I'm telling you, that is a talented football team. They like that young quarterback. I think they're going to be ready to go next year. Shot out of a cannon. We'll see. They're my pick to be a spoiler to some of the fun of the top 2 teams in the Big Ten, especially now that they're going away with divisions. All right, Dustin, are you ready to talk about what is under further review?
Let's get it.
That play is under further review.
All right, Dustin, what's under further review here for you in Rivalry Week?
Well, first of all, you said that we would have a discussion about this coach sometime in the future. How about now, Ryan Day?
I got too much to say. I can't do it.
No, I'm with you. I'm gonna hold it in, most of it. But I'm gonna quote Barry Switzer, legendary coach Barry Switzer. Some people are born on third base and go through life thinking they hit a triple. That's Ryan Day. He inherited a program that Urban Meyer built to a well-oiled machine. Urban Meyer was 83-9 at the Ohio State. So Ryan Day comes in, takes over, and he's not a bad coach. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. He's not elite. He's not him. He's allowed Michigan.
Obvious.
He's allowed Michigan to close that gap and surpass them this year, at least. And to be honest with you, the outlook of each program, I'd probably take Michigan right now.
I would too. I like their staff better. Outside of Brian Hartline, I like their staff better.
For sure. And Brian Hartline, if we're being honest, he'll be a head coach sometime in the next 2 years.
He may be the head coach there.
Maybe. So Ryan Day, count your days, I think, because it's funny to say that when you're talking about a coach that's 45-5 at this institution.
I know. It sounds so ridiculous.
2 losses is not the standard there, and that's crazy to say, but Urban won a national championship, and you just got blown out at home against your arch nemesis. So I don't think Ryan Day's him. Anyway, that's enough harping on him. Number 2 for me is Noah Burnett. If you don't know that name, you obviously didn't watch North Carolina State game, because he's the kicker that missed 2 field goals in that game. He not only missed one earlier in the game, but he missed the game winner that ended the game in double overtime. That's a tough look, man. You're talking about I think it was like a 30-yard field goal or something like that. It was not long. And your team battles all game to get in this position, have a chance to go to 3 overtimes, and you miss it. That's tough. Number 1 under further review for me, though, is somewhere that you should never have an error, and that's the officials in the Egg Bowl. Officials are human. I get it, but you can't.
They're paid.
You can't change what you've already said. You came out and your mic's turned on. You tell the crowd, inadvertent whistle, play didn't count, line it up, play it again. And then you huddle up and you say, well, actually, they recovered it. We're just going to give them the ball. And I'm not one to say the officials screwed them, because Mississippi State went down and fumbled the ball on the 1-yard line. Ole Miss still had a chance to win the game. That did not cost them the game, but it certainly changed their game plan for the rest of the game of what they could have done with the clock. So you can't have officials affecting the outcome of a game, and they did. So number 1 under further review is the officials in that game.
All right, here we go. My under further review is the same as far as number 3 goes. Ryan Day, we had the discussion. I want to shelve the rest because I think there's some interesting, more Ohio State stuff there than Ryan Day. That I think people need to remember just how much that place cares to win. That's all I'm going to say. That's all. And you, Dustin, at Ohio State, you need to do 3 things: beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, compete for a national championship. He ain't doing none of those 3 this year. Interesting. For the second year in a row. Just throwing that out there. All right. My number 2 is the defenses in the Florida State game. Both were horrendous. Both coordinators, big question marks on their head to me. I tried to give Adam Fuller lots of praise and props, but buddy, he was straight bad. And I know
in the first half.
Yes, in the first. Well, look at those 2. Well, 1 touchdown wasn't his fault as far as, but the run up, the 47-yard run that they had, that's just
atrocious.
Well, dude, we were lined up in the wrong places. I mean, it was the gate opened like Moses parting in the sea. So both defensive coordinators, a little suspect there. So I went with a cop-out answer because I didn't want to be too hard on head coaches. But I know his team's about to compete for an SEC championship, Dustin. But my number 1, under further review, Brian Kelly, what are you doing? I've been praising you all year long. You've turned the corner. You got LSU respectable, and you lose to that Texas A&M team. That one, the one without half their roster, the one that quit on the season, the one that only scored 23 points against UMass. That one, sketchy. Well, suspect. Sketchy like sending a student up on a film tower in a rainstorm. Oh, sorry.
Ooh. Also, I just want to point out the fact that your power poll and under further review is basically all coaches. I love it.
I had to do it. Dude, I'm hard on them. They're paid so well.
I agree.
Screw off. I'm tired of that. Yeah. Anyway, and plus, I really 9 times out of 10, I hate to be too hard on the player. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. All right, Dustin. Let's move on to previewing some of these games if you're ready. We're going to preview Conference Championship Saturday. Short amount of games, so we gave you a review, and it's now time to move on to talk about the games of the day. Are you ready, Dustin?
Yo.
Let's do it. 12 o'clock, Kansas State, TCU. This game is on ABC. TCU is a 2.5-point favorite. This game is for the Big 12 championship right there at Cowboys Stadium in Arlington. We saw this game before. TCU had to come from underneath. It ended up being a multi-touchdown win, but they were down by almost 20 points at one point in that game. Looked like it was going to go Kansas State's way, but Martinez gets hurt. Howard gets hurt. They're down to the third-string quarterback. TCU takes advantage of that. I think this TCU team, Dustin, is rolling. I think they're done with the close games. They want to show what they can be going into the playoff. I think they're in regardless, quite frankly. I know that's not going to make a lot of people happy. But I think as long as this game is close one way or the other, or TCU wins outright big time, I like TCU's offense against this Kansas State defense. While I don't hate the Kansas State defense, I think it's a matchup situation. The secondary for Kansas State is fine, but I just love this receiving core. I love Max Duggan, and this is just one of those teams, Dustin. It's a team of destiny, and they may not win the whole thing. They probably won't. Let's be honest with ourselves. But this is just a team that's riding high. They believe in themselves. I think they get it done here today. They win the Big 12. They go undefeated, and they go to the college football playoff. Sonny Dykes, year 1, takes that TCU team that Gary Patterson had in the dumps last year. I can't believe you want that man hired at UNLV. And it's going to the college.
I want him hired there.
Well, going to you were fine with it, and I don't accept mediocrity.
Fine with it.
I don't accept mediocrity from my running Rebels.
All right, pal. You want to say that?
Our running Rebels.
I didn't know a team could win in year 1. I thought it took to year 3 before you could put up a 9+ win season.
All right. Well, Mike Norvell, he's in year 2 to me because I don't count COVID.
You don't count it, but everyone else does.
Not everybody, pal. That doesn't exist.
The record books do.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't count that. I don't count that season. Couldn't even visit a recruit's house. Not my problem. Anyway, I think
those players wouldn't have been on the field.
I think TCU gets a big win today. There you go. Moving on. I'm not having the same discussion again.
Yeah, TCU is a team of destiny here. I mean, if Kansas had won last week, then like I said, it would be Texas versus TCU. I think that's a much more competitive game because I think the Longhorns get them in that rematch. They were close in the first go
So was
round.
Kansas State, though, to be fair, with the healthy roster.
That's true, sure, but I think TCU matches up well with Kansas State. Will Howard's dethroned Adrian Martinez as a starter.
Told ya.
He doesn't scare me enough. Now I did see also that Kleiman said that you can expect a couple packages with Adrian Martinez in there. So I don't know. That might have been just to plant the doubt in TCU's mind. Oh, we may have to game plan for him.
I have a feeling they're game planning for both anyway.
I would use Martinez in a run capacity anyway because he is electric with his legs.
Me too.
But overall, though, Howard, Martinez, doesn't matter. That offense doesn't scare me enough. They've been too inconsistent. TCU's offense is just too much, especially as of late. After seeing what they did to Iowa State, yeah, I'm sold. I think Duggan is going to punch his ticket to New York City for the ceremony in this game.
Oh, that's a hot take.
Give me the Horned Frogs by 10.
All right, I like that. We're on the same page for one. It's okay.
And I said ticket to New York City. I didn't say he got the title because he's not going to win the trophy.
He's got no shot to win unless everyone else in the running just totally poops the bed. Toledo versus Ohio. I had to do that because Toledo, Ohio is one actual city and state name. So Toledo versus Ohio, ESPN. Toledo 1.5 point favorite. Don't understand that line. This game is for the MAC championship, Ford Field in Detroit. Love this game every year. I wish it was still on Friday. Don't know why it's not. But whatever. Look, I'm just going to be honest here. Toledo is coming into this game just nosediving. What's going on, man? They did not have the season I expected them to. And Ohio's riding high, man. That offense is so fun. That quarterback's probably going to be playing somewhere else next year in the Power 5. But this just feels like an Ohio team that's bounced back after one bad year without Frank Solich. They're right back in the thick of things. Kind of unjust that they're going to win the MAC rank at the helm. But they're doing it for him. Give me the Bobcat. Great set of uniforms on this field, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I like Ohio here as well. They've won 7 straight games. Now, Curtis Rourke, who you mentioned, stud quarterback, he's out. But backup quarterback C.J. Harris, he accounted for 4 touchdowns last week in his season debut. So that offense isn't going to miss a beat, really. He's more of a running threat. So I expect big things out of the offense regardless. Toledo's they're banged up. That's what's went wrong with them. They haven't been healthy for much of the season, and they're hoping this game really hinges on whether DeQuan Finn can go or not. But whether he does, whether he doesn't, give me the Bobcats outright. Ohio, that's pretty much as sure as I can be about a game is when I saw this line. Give me Ohio.
So we'll talk about the locks here in a minute, but that's a little bit of a sneak peek there. Let's talk about one of the more fun conferences in the country, Dustin. 3:30, Coastal Carolina, Troy, ESPN. Troy is an 8.5 point favorite. This game is for the Sun Belt Championship at the home stadium of Troy. What a turnaround for Troy, man. This is a team that plays nasty defense. I love the coach. Everyone talked about the Sun Belt East earlier in the year. They had Coastal and you had App and you had all this other stuff, buddy. The West with them and South with Troy, pronouns, pal, with Troy and South Alabama right there in the thick of it too, man. Really great stories out of the state of Alabama this year. I like Troy. I think Troy wins. I think covers. Did everyone watch Coastal play Jay Madison last week? It wasn't ugly. By the way, Jay Madison would be in this game if they didn't have the 1 year stupid rule that they have.
Stupid rule. But yeah, Coastal's coming off an embarrassing loss last week to James Madison. I mean, they
not their first embarrassing loss all year either.
It's not.
They look at that Old Dominion game looking a little funny.
But
no.
I don't think that's going to be the team that shows up here. Troy is hot. They've won 9 straight games. They won their last 2 games by double-digit margins each game. And Coastal, obviously, they just had that embarrassing loss we talked about. And before that, their last 2 wins were by a combined 10 points. So they were close games even in them. But I just have to go with my gut and what I know. And what I know is that Jamie Chadwell is a stud of a coach. I think he's going to have his boys ready to play.
Quarterback healthy? Grayson McCall playing?
I don't know.
That matters.
It does matter. But still, call it a gut feeling, if you will. Give me Coastal Carolina outright to win their 2nd conference title.
I truly feel that Troy is just a better football team at this point in the season. But if Grayson McCall is playing, then we have a different ball game on our hands for sure. Makes that offense go. And I like Jamie Chadwell too, but how invested is Jamie Chadwell right now? I think there's some Tampa rumblings there for sure. Also rumblings as well. Okay, let's go to the 4:00 game, the big one. Everyone loves this game. I don't think it's going to be super entertaining. LSU, Georgia, CBS. Georgia's a 17.5-point favorite. Game is for the SEC championship game. Takes place right there in the heart of Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I have a whole lot of analysis here, Dustin. I think Georgia's a better football team. I think their defense clamps that offense down. I think they make Jaden Daniels have a rough day. Not so much on him, but because that LSU offensive line is young. They're not very good. They've been kind of playing up above their heads all season long. It caught them last week, and it's caught them a couple times this year against Florida State and Tennessee. So I really like Georgia to win this game. I think Stetson Bennett does what he needs to do. If he chooses to have one of those days, New York's not out of the question for him either, man. Just because he'll be the quarterback of the number one team in the country. And if he has the numbers, got a chance to punch his ticket in this game as well. I think the Dogs roll. I think they can win. Covering 17.5 is a lot of points because they don't really do that. But we saw them in a statement game earlier in the year, Dustin, where they just put the clamps on Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think they can do that in this game as well. I like the Dogs to win and win pretty big.
Yeah,
I don't like the number, though. The number I'm going to stay away from.
It's Georgia. It's Georgia. I mean, we just saw this LSU team lose to the lowly Texas A&M Aggies. I can't forgive that. Jaden Daniel, he had a pedestrian game last week, threw for 189, rushed for 84, accounted for no touchdowns. And this Georgia defense is leagues better than that Aggies D. Stetson Bennett in the offense, they're going to score enough, and the defense is going to hold the Tigers in check. Give me Georgia by 20. I'll say a cover just because I think that the team is that much more talented.
Oh, they certainly could cover. I mean, it could be, and that's the thing. This game's going to be the highest viewed game of the day, Dustin, and it's probably going to be the worst game, which I hate. But that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. Why ESPN chose to counter-program it, I'll never understand. But this game that we're about to talk about will be a better football game.
Much better.
UCF Tulane, a rematch from a couple weeks ago on ABC. This game for the American Athletic Conference Championship, the last one for the UCF Knights as they transition into the Power 5 in the Big 12. Tulane, a 4-point favorite, like I said earlier in the show. Tulane's got a shot to send two teams packing to the Big 12 with big fat L's and back-to-back weeks. Could they do it? This game played out a little wonky last time where UCF got out to a big lead and was able to hold on to it, and Tulane turned the ball over, which is unusual for them, at least up to that point. So I just think this game is different. It's really hard to beat a team twice, which we know. UCF's coming off a really close win. It should have been a loss against USF. Maybe they catch Tulane sleeping on it a little bit. I don't know. I think they've got this game circled. They let it get away last time. Love what Willie Fritz is doing. Love the ground game. I love their ability to run the ball. I think the UCF defense gets gashed up front. I like roll wave, baby. Give me Tulane. And Tulane is favored by 4. I like him to cover that spread as well. Tulane going to a New Year's 6 bowl game, baby. Let's do it. Tulane, hey, I wish LSU would have won because guess what? They would have had a chance to play Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. We were this close.
Yeah. Which, by the way, they need to play each other annually anyway. But
LSU won't do it, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Cowards. So, yeah, this is a rematch from a few weeks ago, and that was a fun game to watch. Yep. You had one team fighting for their life to maintain the lead they built. Now, you mentioned also it is hard to beat a team twice in a season. So let's look at what's went down since that game. UCF lost to Navy. Was in a dogfight with a terrible USF team. Yep. But on the other side, Tulane dog-walked SMU and then beat a good Cincinnati team. And they're riding the high of their head coach turning down a Power 5 gig.
I think
momentum.
Yep.
The momentum's all with Tulane here, so give me the green wave by a touchdown.
I'm also skeptical of your guy Gus Malzahn. Just be honest. Not.
Why is he my guy?
I don't know. You praised him more than me, so automatically he's your guy. But maybe Auburn shouldn't have fired him. Just throwing that out there. Go. It's a little chilly there in Auburn right now.
There's a freeze warning.
Oof. We already talked about that. Go check out our pod feeds for that. All right. Hey, this is a game we predicted in the offseason, but we got there in a roundabout ass way. How did we get to this next game? Like, that is so crazy to me. Like, there was some tops and turns. Like, Fresno State lost to UConn. Like, Boise started out 1-2, made a quarterback change. They've been riding high ever since. Let's talk about it, Dustin. Fresno State, Boise State. On Fox, Boise State is a 3-point favorite for the Mountain West Championship. Summing up real quick, I think Boise's a better football team, man. They have been riding high since switching quarterbacks. Hank Bachmeier entering the portal. Man, our guy, Andy Avalos, turning things around there, buddy. And this game's at Albertson Stadium. I think that makes a difference. It's going to be really cold, and I think that will have an effect on the Bulldogs' offense. I like the Broncos to roll. I was iffy on them coming into the year. They proved me wrong. Congratulations to Andy Avalos. You're going to the Las Vegas Bowl, baby.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's like, hey, you need to go from here to there. And instead of walking a straight line, they went the longest route possible, did a couple 360s in the middle.
Fresno State definitely did. What in the hell?
Yeah. I mean, this is the two teams that frustrated me more than any other teams this season. But here we are playing for the conference title game. Fresno and the fighting Jeff Tedfords, they made me a liar a few times early in the season. And Andy Avalos, I said it early on, he's now on my no-trust list forever. So I'm very torn on who to pick here. But Boise did win the earlier matchup, 40-20 when they played, won it convincingly. And this game is in Boise. And as much as I love Jeff Tedford, this Boise team, they've been much improved since the offense coordinator and quarterback changed. So, yeah, give me the Broncos to cover as well.
Let's go to the night slate real quick here, Dustin. Purdue, Michigan on Fox. Michigan, a 16.5-point favorite. Big Ten championship game on the line. Obviously, it's in Indianapolis there at Lucas Oil Stadium. I think this game's very simple. If you move the ball on the ground successfully, I think this game will be over pretty early. Because it's not hate on Purdue, who I like. And some weeks they show up better than others. It's been a really weird year. The fact that they're even in this game is very weird. The Big Ten West is average at best. But I think this game is more about Michigan. I think they're taking last year's playoff loss very personally. They want a chance to get revenge. They want a chance to get back there. I think they play their best ball of the year on Saturday, kind of like they did last year, Dustin, when they played Iowa. So I really like Michigan to win. I like them to win big. Aiden O'Connell and that offense could give them some spicy stuff early, but I think Michigan rolls. I know they'll be without Blake Corum, who I know that you're probably going to touch on. Season-ending knee surgery announced today, so he will not be available for the playoff run. Sad thing to hear. Again, was really looking at an invite to New York for the Heisman Trophy. Probably not going to get that now, but I think they'll play for him, and they'll play for their coach. I like the Wolverines to win big and comfortably, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely sucks for Blake Corum. He 100% would be in New York for the Heisman ceremony had he not been injured and had to have knee surgery. Michigan also probably without Maisie Smith, defensive lineman, stud defensive lineman, caught a gun charge, facing felony gun charges there.
Doesn't read well for him either.
Nope. Apparently the gun was registered to him or something. I saw something earlier and I couldn't find it. Anyway, regardless, probably going to be without a key piece of their defensive line. Yep. But that being said, Michigan just whooped up on Ohio State without Blake Corum. This team is humming. I like the Wolverines big here because, like I've said for weeks, you just can't trust this Purdue offense. You never know which version is going to show up, and Michigan is too talented to be off your A game against. So, yeah, give me Michigan big as well.
All right, for the second year in a row, this next game is irrelevant, but we have to talk about it anyway. Just throwing that out there. Clemson, North Carolina, ABC Clemson, a 7.5-point favorite. This game is in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium. This is for the ACC championship. This game is so weird to me. I cannot pinpoint what I want to do here. On one hand, I think Clemson's a more talented football team, obviously. And I think, well, not obviously, but I think it's pretty obvious. I said that a little too strongly. But the recruiting rankings are what they are, buddy. But the North Carolina defense, who does have some nicely recruited players on there, they're an open door. Now, they played a little bit better against NC State last week, but that NC State offense has been
putrid.
It's not very good. So I've had a really hard time back and forth with this game. Depends on the DJU that shows up, man. Last couple weeks, he's been part of the problem. I think Clemson wins if they give them a nice heavy dose of Will Shipley and the running backs. I think they can get a push on that North Carolina defensive line, and I think Clemson can win the game that way. But I think Drake May is the difference in this game. If Spencer Rattler can carve him up, Drake May can certainly carve him up. I think North Carolina fans will show up for this game, surprisingly. Clemson, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I mean, it's close for both, so whatever. I like the Heels. Give it to me. Give me a weird year for the Tar Heels where they end up finding their way to win the ACC with one of the worst Power 5 defenses I have ever seen take the field. That is all on. I'm giving Mac Brown credit, but I'm also giving Phil Longo, offensive coordinator, credit, and I'm giving Drake May credit. Give it the Tar Heels, baby. Outright upset. Let's go.
Okay. First word that comes to mind when thinking about this game, though, is yuck.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
I know this is 2 top 25 teams, but still, yuck. Now, Clemson moved on from DJU as the starter. It's going to be Cade Klubnik's team going forward, apparently.
That's not what Dabo said the other day in this presser, though.
I saw the
I
other
know.
day. Okay, so maybe he hasn't.
Yeah.
I think he might have just been wanting to spare DJU some public stuff there. I think it's Cade Klubnik's is their best chance to win this game. But regardless, I think it's clear that this team may never get back to the pre-COVID Clemson level, dynastic level that they were at ever again. This is who they are, I think. They're a 9-10 win team. And that's not a bad thing, but regardless, UNC just has zero defense. And to pair with that, their Heisman hopeful quarterback, who you've been hyping all season, rightfully so. I love Drake May. He's been playing like crap lately. In their last 2 games, he's failed to get over 235 yards passing. He's thrown just 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. So I like Clemson to win the game pretty comfortably, probably about 10+. But this game does not catch my attention at all. I do not want to watch this game. I will, but I don't
have a feeling
want to.
I know there's less stakes involved, Dustin, but I have a feeling it'll be a better football game than Purdue-Michigan. Like, that's the sad thing.
I agree, but
football game.
What I'm saying is I think I might enjoy my Saturday night doing something else than glued to a TV watching either one of these games.
I will be at the Arboretum Christmas light show in Asheville, North Carolina. So
I would rather die, but
that's on you, pal. That's a mistake you're making. It's great.
Christmas light show. Okay.
Well, you're just a Grinch. That's all. Just a Grinch.
Anyway, I am a mean one, but now personally in this game, I of course am rooting for the GOAT Mac Brown to get the ACC title, but I think Clemson does it.
Also, shout out to ACC Coach of the Year, our guy Mike Elko at Duke.
Yeah.
Much deserved. Florida State fans will argue that it should be Mike Norvell. No, he's at Florida State. He's at Duke. That's the difference. There really is no further discussion needed, in my opinion. Dustin, anything else on these championship games before we get into our last little bit here, our locks of the week?
Now let's get to the locks.
All right.
Lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up.
All right, Dustin, let's talk about our locks. Are you ready? Here we go. Look at those. Look at those locks. You need these locks. TCU, taking them and the points. I like TCU to win by a lot more. Dustin is taking that Ohio money line, which to me is easy money.
Yeah, I mean that Ohio offense, they're too tough. Now, what I'm going to do for you here, let me pull something up on my phone. I'm gonna give you some free advice here. So if you take Ohio money line and you take TCU spread and you parlay that, then that gives you plus 335 odds. So
a little two-team teaser pleaser, my friend.
Yeah, you put $20 on that, then you're going to win $67.05 at those odds. That's just free money.
And this is what you come for. You come here to win free money. I may actually parlay that myself. Don't tell me.
I already did it. So
all right. Okay, Dustin, any final thoughts? We've given you an hour plus. We need to get out of here so you can get on with your Saturday mornings.
Yeah. Go eat your Hardee's.
Eat your Hardee's. You know, the American people tell you to eat your Wheaties. No, man, eat your Hardee's. That's where
we're in the South, brother.
That's where the power lies, to quote Hulk Hogan. And on that note, since I'm quoting that guy, we will catch you next time on Lateral Live.